Great. All right. Well, we have a good group. We have people here. We have Team Daner set up the room, Maria, Gavin, and even Gianna downstairs manning the gate, right?
Yep.
And so thank you so much for doing that. Thank you all for joining us. We have, we're in Heritage Hall, which is a very cool room where we have a lot of our like athletic board meetings and special functions. So for those of you who are here, it's great to have you here. For those of you who are on Zoom, it's really great to have you on Zoom. BIOS is our effort here on campus, as I think most of you know, to bring together research and sport. So tremendous research university, one of the best research universities in the world. Great sports institution. We got some of our wonderful athletes here in the room, some of the best in the world who are here. So we have both. So it's BIOS brings those two things together. And this, one of the things we're doing in BIOS is starting some original research. So we're getting to know researchers that are on campus, bringing them in for seminars, and we're starting some work. So this, today, we're talking about the Wisconsin Coaching Project, which is a study, an empirical study that we have a great team of researchers, some of whom are on Zoom, some of whom are here, and we've started the study. So we're going to talk about that, the background of it a little bit, and some of the very early findings. I'm going to start off. So first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for our team. Another team member has walked in. Hello, Josie. How are you doing? Welcome.
Chris got it.
Got it. Oh. My little thing slides under. That's good. Let's see here. Right. Should I go to escape? Sorry, everyone, a little technical challenge here. Got it. There we go. All right, let's start off with a little trivia question. We have a couple trivia questions. This is an interactive session, so if you intended to come here, Noah, and not say anything, you're out of luck. All right, and those of you who are on Zoom, you have 15 seconds to answer this question. Maria, you have to see who chimed in. All right, 15 seconds, try to answer this question. What high school sports have the most participants among girls?
Soccer.
Soccer.
Basketball.
Say what?
I have
Yeah, we have a
volleyball
soccer.
online.
Soccer. I go soccer. Thanks, soccer.
Soccer. Everyone thinks soccer. Adrian, you agree?
Basketball.
Okay. Top 10 most popular girls in high schools in America. The number of school teams on the left, number of participants on the right. Track and field for girls.
Should have known.
Should have known. Josie's
My bad.
a track and field athlete. Volleyball is the fastest growing girls sport. Exploded past basketball. Look at basketball is losing quickly in America. Interesting. And soccer is kind of, I think, steady. All right, same question for boys. What do you think?
Football.
Okay, football, most participants. Most participants.
Track.
Which sport do you think?
Track. I go
Track. Okay. What are people online saying, Maria? What's the? All
I have track, football,
right,
track and field.
football by far, almost double. Football is almost 1 million participants. Part of that's roster size, right? But by far the biggest participant pool. Okay, this one's a hard question. How many? Just give a ballpark estimation. How many NCAA athletes? Just complete ballpark estimate across divisions 1, 2, 3.
2 million.
It's hard. I would have had no idea. We have people guessing in the millions. Okay, it's about 500,000. A lot. Hard question. Now the sub question. How many in the A5? A5 would be like the big conferences still, like Big 10, ACC, SEC, Big 12, and Pac-12. How many do you think are playing sports at those levels? At just that level? 90,000. One guess. What's an online guess we have?
Any guesses online for how many current NCAA athletes are in the top programs? So we have 75,
45.
100K, 60, 50,
Hey.
25, 500,000.
It's about, so like less than 10% of NCAA athletes are Power 5 conference. Okay, that was a little trivia, a little background in your head. Keep those, you don't have to remember those numbers, but it's a little background. We're setting the stage here. Okay, now we're gonna get into more academic stuff.
Pete, can I pause you just
Yes.
for 1 second?
Yes.
Can everybody see on the, on Zoom that, the quote on there, or is it stuck on this, it's stuck on the slide thing? Okay, Pete, hold on, I'm gonna just, can you stop share?
Yep.
Let's see.
We want to get the slides on, what if I don't?
There we go. Yep, and then so if you hit present, I think it was just a little glitch, and then everybody's got up.
All right,
Should be.
still not working. How about if I just do like, if I don't do it in slide mode, but I do it kind of like
That works.
the other way?
Yep, that works.
We're troubleshooting here. Okay, can you see my slides now, people? People see them on Zoom?
Yep.
I hope none of like my, like high school friends send me texts or something right now. All right. So, Robert Putnam was this political scientist. He's still active. He's like at the end of his career, he's like in his 80s, but the thing he's known for is what's called social capital. Have you heard of that term before? Social capital? It's the definition is right here, and it says social capital is the features of social organizations such as networks, norms, and trust that facilitate coordination and cooperation for mutual benefit. So it's like relationships, what we get from them. And at the simplest level, you can look at social capital like at the individual level. So like, what is my social capital like? What are my relationships? How do they affect me? Or you can look at them more like at a societal level. Like we could look at Ignacio's hometown in Barcelona and say like, what is the social capital in that community? And if it's a really dense and trusting community, has really good social capital. So you can look at it at like individual levels, or you can look at it at bigger levels and everywhere in between. So this professor, Robert Putnam, really well-known guy, he uses two other terms related to social capital. I want to ask you again a little quiz question. Talk to the person next to you about these two terms: social distance and perception gap. Take guesses. What do you think those, this 10-15 seconds, social distance and perception gap? If you're online, think it through for a second.
I feel like I just walk down the street. Madison, right?
All right. What do we think? Any guesses about what we're talking about? Social distance and perception gaps? What do you think, Steve?
Potentially like a difference in the way one group of people views something compared to another group of people.
Yeah, so that would be what the second perception gap. Social distance is this term they talks about, which is that it's a distance between, not physically between you and another person, but kind of like relationally from another person. And the more social distance we have, like in a society or in a group, the less we trust each other, the less we know each other, the less we understand each other. There's this distance between us. Hey, Rich, welcome. So when that happens, we have these gaps in like how we perceive things. So in some of his books, Professor Putnam talks about how this is like one of the most noteworthy kind of social trends in America over the years. Is this like extension of social distances, these increasing perception gaps. So I want to ask you a question. Given all that stuff, so we're doing a social capital quiz here, Rich. Given what we just talked about, like relationship networks, trust, if you had to think about the United States, you had to make a guess, which regions of the country have the best social capital index? If you had to just think about regions like the West, Northeast, the South, Midwest, just think it through, talk it over with your neighbor for like 15 seconds. What do you think? Best social capital index.
See the slide. Slide that looks like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. They all like that is.
All right. In what time, Josie? What do you think? Where would you think it's social?
I think we're most friendly and would
Okay,
help our neighbors.
all right, all right. The Midwest friendliness. What else? Anyone disagree strongly? Other thoughts? Everyone thinks it's Midwest. It's like local bias here.
Like the South.
You think it's South, Gavin? Okay. All right. Dark is the worst. Light is the best. You Midwesterners are indeed have what they would call this is county level scores of social capital indices. Now, any guesses when you look at that map as to why it looks like that? Why do these areas like in the Midwest, Middle America, why do you think they tend to have higher social capital index scores?
Because we're better.
Yes, because we're better. No, that's not the answer.
I read a study a long time ago about the weather. When it's colder, it makes people to help more each other because it's harder to live there. So maybe that could be a reason.
Could be some weather variables. It's an interesting spot. Could be. Darcy, sounds like there's something to that. The other is another variable, kind of somewhat related, is the rural communities tend to have this interdependence upon each other historically, where you kind of your neighbor better. If there aren't many of you, that it tends to be more. If you're from a small town in a rural community, historically, you have known each other, and there's one school in the community, maybe there's a couple churches, versus it in some of these really dense areas, there's less of that. That's a very simplistic explanation. There's a whole lot to that, this idea of social capital. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but one of the things that Putnam writes about, and a lot of people writing about social capital in general, is that over the last 50 years or so, there have been major changes in American life in social capital. And one term is associational life. What do you think that term means? Associational life. Getting all kinds of quiz questions here today. Very specific aspect of social capital.
Kind of like the teams you're associated with brings more people together.
Teams and organizations and institutions. So his famous book that he wrote in 1994 is called Bowling Alone. And it was kind of this classic book. And it was about, he looked at all these things like Rotary clubs, Elks clubs, churches, community associations, volunteer things, and even bowling leagues. And all these places where people traditionally would spend time together. And he found that people weren't doing these things anymore. If you compared your parents' lives to your lives now, they weren't going to these traditional organizations. They were kind of doing their own thing in different ways. Even bowling, they weren't even doing bowling leagues anymore. People were literally bowling alone. He has data that show that. So that is this has been a big trend that we've talked about a lot. There are a bunch of studies that show this kind of stuff. So look at this chart. This is from this big national report from a couple of years ago, talking about how are Americans spending time, less time together, it's physically together, less time physically together. On weekends and weekdays. Americans have less confidence in institutions. You see the light blue line shows little or no confidence. Those numbers are going up. People in the light blue have little or no confidence in the institutions of our lives. People in the dark blue, those numbers are coming down. This was an interesting one. There were hundreds of charts. I just chose a few. This was this massive search of the Google database of the use of I and me versus collective pronouns like we and collective stuff. It's one interesting measure how that's changed. So So like part of the question that we're asking, like, is everything collapsing? Like, where is everybody spending their time? Like, what, if we're not going to those places anymore, where are we? So what do you think? Where are people spending their time? Where is our interest going?
On their phone.
I was gonna put that as a joke, right? Yeah, but that's kind of true. Like a lot of our time, and that it shouldn't be downplayed. I mean, a lot of our connections are here, you know, he's playing gaming. Professor Halverson's that's one of his areas of great expertise.
An online response, or for somebody via Zoom says online as well.
Yeah. I have 4 kids. One of my sons, he plays like whatever, NBA 2K or these games like every night with his friends. And so he spends more time with his friends than I ever do with mine, but they're never together in the same room. So just because we're not going to the Elks Club doesn't mean that we're less relational. It's just like very different. So we're in different places. Now, what about like organizations? Like, so one interesting, I'm getting to our point with this study. One place where people are spending their time, as a lot of these other institutions are going down, is sports and like interest areas. So you could look at so many metrics of how people are spending time, money, and relationships. And a lot of it is, you can see one of the thriving areas of American life is like in sports, where they're spending money on sports. Look at the trend of kids playing sports. These are organized sports over the years. Just a straight line up pretty much. And that number is even more jarring when you look at that compared to like other traditional places where kids spend their time that are going down. Like, you know, even when I was a kid, there were a lot of kids like in scouts and that kind of thing. And a lot of those other areas are going down, but sports continue to really go up. And that's seen like in adults too. So American women spend more time than women elsewhere do on sports. American women are the green line. American men are the green line, spend much more time than men elsewhere in sports. So this point all leads up to, in our study, one of the things we're doing is we're saying like, well, why are sports relevant? Is sports worthy of our attention? Like, is it a place where meaningful things are happening more than just like games being played? And this is one argument why that is the case, that the fact that it's such an important part in our kind of culture of where people are spending their time. Big money involved too. This was a recent headline that some people saw, a $7 billion contract in college sports. So it's all levels, youth levels, it's adult participation, pro sports, gambling, gaming, all of these things. Is it a good thing? Like, so there's a lot of research that says it's a really good thing. It's a good place for us to be spending our time. We've got some of you here are just deeply involved in sport. You know, you're benefiting from all these things that we see on the chart through all of your, you know, your exercise, your fitness, your teamwork. All of these benefits we see are like great. Still setting the stage. So that's all great, right? Sports are all good. Not so fast, not all good. All right, so some of the things, lots of sports good, the good part, lots of activity, opportunity. A lot of you probably may not have come to this great institution or whatever college you went to, if not for sport. It's like an opportunity lever for a lot of us. Great relationships that you'll have for your lifetime, your teammates, with your coaches, and all of those things. A lot of like negatives too. Sport is not all good. Like there are a lot of problems. There's an inequity in lots of areas. There's Ignacio's working through it right now. A tough, really tough thing, which is an injury. And all of us who do sport will probably have to deal with injury at times. It's a really tough thing. A lot of other things. So one other sub trend we are looking at in our study is that where participation happens is not even as well. So as sport participation is going way up, going down largely in American schools. 2017 was the first time, if you looked at the trend over the last 100 years, 2017 school-based sports started going down in terms of numbers of kids participating in school-based sports. And that was pre-pandemic. They went down radically during the pandemic. They're starting to recover, but So up for many years. 2017, they started going down. Kids in their high schools playing sport. Why do you think that's relevant? Is that relevant? Does it matter? As long as they're active, does it matter? Anyone have a thought as to why, yes or no, why it might matter? Good or bad? Yeah,
I guess schools provide some sort of structure where if you're in like a club sport or if you're just playing on your own, you can kind of get out of certain trouble.
yeah, I think that's true, like a structure, not only in terms of like the sport itself is structured, but who's leading it. Like if you're in a school-based sport, most schools have some kind of threshold to coach there. You know, like I volunteer help with a school-based program and I have to go through like a background check. And I have to go through this little modules to make sure that I'm, you know, at least not a active criminal. I mean, there's like some threshold that has to happen, right? So that's good. What else about school-based stuff? Yeah, Adrian.
It seems like a lot of like the clubs are oftentimes, like it costs money, say like school sports are often, that's a little bit cheaper for everyone to.
Super expensive, which brings all kinds of equity and access issues. Adrian, that's right. So look, these, as those school numbers are going down, these are some data from the last 8 years or so. So we see people who make kind of in the 6 figures, they're participating more, their kids. For white people, about the same. For African-American, for Black student athletes or children, I should say, basically high school age, the numbers have gone down 10% in the last 10 years. Low income, same, down 10%.
Pete, we have a few responses online. Could this be partly due to more club sports or athletes only participating in club sports, as well as club sports encourage earlier specialization than school-based sports? Or some of the responses online.
Yeah, it's all those things. So some of the actually led right to this next question. The data, what did the data show? The Aspen Institute did all this work on this stuff. And why is this happening? The 3 of the biggest reasons they identify is versus money, that it's, you know, it's thousands of dollars to play a lot of these teams. Like if you think about some of your youth sport teams you played for or played with, or you know friends or family who've done it, it's super expensive. And that's a huge immediate barrier for a lot of kids. Time. So it's not just that you're going on you're playing in a tournament and like, you know, some teams I worked with this past summer, we played in cities, you know, 8 hours away. Luckily, I have a job that's flexible and I'm able to do that kind of thing. But that if you're working 60 hours a week and you can't take your kid there, not only because of the cost, because of the time, very time intensive. But a third reason that's cited often is bad coaching. So we often have this idea of like youth coaches as these people who are like, you know, great people volunteering to do a wonderful thing. That's often the case. But there's a lot of literature saying that coaching is a reason for kids to stop playing as well. This is just at kind of those adolescent years, those times. So what do we know about coaching? We're doing a study of coaching. What do we know? There's this is a little sarcastic here. It says that every genius at home could do it better. Whoops. That's actually part of the literature, which is that like when there are things that everyone like has experienced a lot. So like so many people have played sports or like to watch sports on TV, that they assume this expertise that they have, that they undersell what it takes to do it. So you know, it's the classic Monday morning quarterback. You watch the game. Oh, that coach, why did he call that play? I could have done that better. I could do it better than that coach. That is a challenge to the field. It's a challenge to learn of learning. It's a challenge that faces the field. Because there's a certain belief among the broader public that they understand it better than they actually do. There's in the field of coaching, there's uneven training and preparation. So like to become a teacher in a school, once again, usually Maria used to be a teacher, high school teacher. What was your preparation for that?
4-year degree.
4-year degree, and did you have some kind of license or something?
Correct. I had to take seven tests in Minnesota and 3 tests here.
So again, there's like this threshold. Yeah, like a lot of coaching, there isn't that. No, what's your training? You probably had to have all of the strength and conditioning certification.
CSCS.
Now, let me ask you this, you're a school-based guy working, you were in lacrosse, now you're working here. In the field of strength and conditioning, there are a lot of like freelance people as well, like personal trainer types.
Right.
Do they have the same thresholds to enter into the field?
Not always, and it's kind of the same relatable thing where anyone with an Instagram account thinks that they're a trainer now, posts an exercise, and just because they look good, necessarily mean they know what's right.
So there's this explosion of personal coaching that's going on almost every sport as well. So like, in that's, I'd imagine your sport, there's a lot of, I know there is in your sport, a lot of people who kind of do personal, soccer skills training. Or I know there are in basketball, there are basketball trainers in every gym in America who are, because they played high school basketball, they're the great trainer. There's a low threshold for entering into it. We know that from the researchers that proportion of the population is increasing, the uncertified and untrained. We also know there's a lot of research Maria gathered in our team. We have this great team of researchers that gathered this whole bibliography of all of the impacts of coaches in so many ways, like the impacts, positive and negative, are profound, and there's a big literature about that. One study that's interesting is from a couple of years ago, like it's called How Much Do Coaches Matter? These are some researchers at the University of Chicago, and they presented this at the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference, which is a big conference held every year, and looking at just like it sounds, analytics around sports. So these researchers use this kind of like innovative methods to say like, well, how much does it matter? Well, how much do coaches matter? I read the study and I couldn't understand the methods section very well at all, because it was too advanced for me, but they came up with some interesting conclusions. I'll share a couple of them. Our estimates generally imply that coaches explain about 20 to 30% of the variation in team success, which was like a pretty significant finding, because in their whole kind of lit review before, they talked about some of the ambiguity about, does it really matter how much coaches impact winning and losing? These are some specific points. There's a lot of narrative there, but it's interesting to look at different sports. So like Steve, you went to a Brewers game today. Their research finds that MLB managers affect runs scored, runs allowed, run differential, and victories. They have a greater impact on runs allowed versus runs scored. Okay, now they have a little explanation for the last sentence. Why would baseball managers have a bigger impact on runs allowed than runs scored? Baseball fans, rich baseball fans, control defense. They control the defense. They were too big at pitching and pitching. So like the two very controllables. They can control where the defensive position, who's playing where, and that has a bigger impact than it's harder than like just slotting guys in a batting order, right? Okay, how about the next one? NFL coaches affect points allowed and point margin. They significantly affect the number of fumbles and penalties a team commits. Any guesses? I'll keep moving on. Couple other things. Why would college football coaches matter more than pro football coaches? One clear reason.
More amateur, like professionals maybe know more than college players.
I didn't see that. Maybe part of it. There's one thing that college coaches do, pro coaches don't do. Recruiting. Yeah. So that was the biggest factor that affected college coaches. Okay, so all these things. So their study was interesting. What do we know about coaches at other levels? We know, like, again, this is an Aspen Institute study. Shows like what do youth coaches? So we have all these people. Those things that just show we're pro coaches. What about youth coaches? What kind of training do they have? A lot of them have this very specific technical training, like how to do CPR, concussion management. What do you do if a student knocks your head on the ground? What are the strategies you do? Very specific technical things. If you look at the bottom line, there's a whole lot less known about kind of motivation and culture building and that kind of thing. So why is that relevant? Kids tend to quit their sports and leave the sports when they're playing for untrained coaches at much higher levels. So all what you all are doing, coming into a coaching program, training our MSL students who are online, thank you all so much for being here. It's great to have you part of the program. We've got a great group on board. It makes a difference. Coaches who have the academic training, who have the technical training, make a difference in terms of athlete retention, in terms of success with their teams. Two other things before we get into some more specific things about what we're doing. An interesting change in the coaching world. So like I was a high school basketball coach years ago, like 25 years ago. I was a high school varsity basketball coach in Indiana. In Indiana, basketball is a really big deal. And like if I wanted to learn like a new offense or something, this is like right at the dawn of the internet. I didn't go on YouTube. I had to like go down to like Bloomington and like learn from Coach Knight, Bob Knight, who ran the motion offense in a certain way. Or I would have to drive up to Wisconsin and learn the pack line defense from Dick Bennett. And I have to go there. It's like a social process of learning that happens. Today, information is abundant. Like I could learn about any scheme, whatever sport you're talking about, and sitting in my living room, just on YouTube. It's all available. It's all the technical information is available. These bottom things are more challenged now. What do you think? Any guesses about that bottom statement? Why is teaching, building culture, and connecting perhaps more challenging than ever right now in today's kind of sport world? Even though we have all this information available to us. Any online respondents, Maria? A lot of reasons. How about one reason?
I think on the bottom is the application of knowledge, where you can consume knowledge, but applying it to a group of individuals is a lot different than just understanding.
The application of it, yep. So transferring content that you observe and putting into practice is a challenge, and that's always been the case, absolutely.
Have a response online. There's more emphasis on overall success and scheming versus the team building aspects. For an example, remembering the team trip and the memories versus the outcome of the tournament.
Yeah, like higher stakes stuff, like higher stakes winning, maybe higher stakes winning pressure, higher stakes, like if you think about why a lot of kids are jumping onto the high level like youth sports train, a lot of them are viewing it as an opportunity mechanism. Like I gotta get a college scholarship, and that might create a different dynamic on a team, a bunch of people angling for themselves as opposed to for the team. Another one is that kids are playing for more teams and they're switching teams much more often. So like the durability factor on teams is the stability factor, I should say, has gone down greatly. So as opposed to when maybe again, years ago, students, the typical trajectory would be you play for your school team all the way up. It's not really another choice. Now you have choice all the time. You can have club team to club team. You can transfer school to school. At the college level, it's an interesting variable where we advocate for students being able to transfer, which is a good thing. Like we want students to have a voice and have a chance. Like if it's not going well one place, to go another place. But that's got another side to it as well, which is it challenges the team dynamic. It challenges the transferer when they're going to a new place. All difficult variables. So part of what we are studying in our study is we're studying social capital. We're studying connectedness and how do coaches develop connectedness in a team in a very specific way. Some of that comes from like another famous researcher's general ideas of that social capital. James Colton said undergirds human capital, meaning like learning what you can learn and your kind of skills and attributes and possibilities like physically and intellectually, cognitively are built upon a social substrate. So solid relationships, and that includes like what you can do in athletics. They provide a foundation upon which you can reach higher level stuff. So our study asks this question that we're we're going with here. We're at the early phases of, we're gonna share just a few initial things and then engage you in a few questions. We're asking, how do coaches design teams that connect? And that is, there's something to that, a little more than just like, how do I relate to Noah? Or how do I relate to any one person? We're using what's called an organizational embeddedness perspective, which is from Professor Mario Small. He studies organizations. He's at Columbia University. He looks at, if you're a part of an organization, what do you get from that organization? So when we're looking at teams right now, we're looking at this, maybe as we're talking this through, think about a team you are on right now or have been on at some time in the past. Get that team in your mind as we're going through some of these questions. And think about your team as an organization and your coach as an organizational leader. Again, think about your team as an organization and your coach, not just as like someone who knows the game of soccer, but your coach as the leader of an organization that plays soccer. So we're studying organizations, teams as organizations. There's one other thing about that Robert Putnam and some other researchers say there's a special possibility in what they call interest-based spaces. So I never liked school. I actually hated school all growing up. I hated, like, almost every day. I did not like going to school, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But I never liked school. It wasn't an interest. It wasn't a choice that I had. I had to go to school. Never liked it. But I loved going to sports practice, and there's a lot of reasons for that. So that's, again, overgeneralization. But we all have different interests. Could be the arts, could be sciences, could be music, could be sports. But there's research that shows in these interest-based spaces, there are special possibilities for learning and growth and development. So a coach, again, when we're studying coaches, we're not just studying them to say, like, well, how can they win more games? Like there's a 30% impact factor or whatever. But how can they be better organizational leaders that convey benefits to those who are part of that organization? So organizational conditions on team, they shape what you're connected to, the people you're connected to, the ideas you're connected to, that's like the information, but also the way you think about things, your ways of interaction. Again, keep that team in mind that you had. Like, how did people interact on your team? Were there certain norms of interaction, certain norms of behavior on that team? How did that shape your experience? And in turn, they shape the benefits you receive. Like, what good comes of it? So a lot of the coaching literature we looked at, again, that Maria dug up all this research in our team. We have this team of about 6 or 8 of us doing this research. A lot of the benefit stuff we talk about. What do you think some of the benefit stuff would say in the literature? Benefits of being on a great team. What would some of it's just kind of off the top of the head, always talked about. Being on a great team, best team you're ever on. What did you get out of it?
Support, gratification.
Support, friendship,
A great support system.
support,
Winning,
was it?
winning.
Winning, yeah, so like, I heard someone say gratification. Yeah, gratification, fun, you enjoyed it? You got, maybe you learned some new skills and habits, you developed good, positive life habits, you developed resilience and grit, like things that went beyond the game, right? Beyond your time on the team.
People get to see a successful system, which individuals who know what it is, takes to follow them.
Great. So this study, we're doing a qualitative study of coaches throughout Wisconsin and beyond. Some coaches outside of Wisconsin. We've used a kind of an interesting model to find these coaches through different expert referral methods. We've gone to like a lot of the leading coaches in the state, and we've talked about what we're looking at and asked them, well, who does this well? How do you know about this? So it's an expert-based sample in some ways. We're not aiming for generalizability. We're aiming for meaning and transferability. So the difference here is this: if we interview 60 coaches, we're not aiming for findings that will say, this is what good coaching is. We're aiming to put together the emergent themes about organizational leadership that coaches have that foster connectedness, that any one of us could take and apply to our setting in a meaningful way. All right, there's a difference there between saying, this is the way it is, so I'm going to apply it. It's rather like, I can look at a lesson, I can read it, I can look at some kind of complexity in the data, in the findings, and I can say, well, how does this apply to me as a rowing coach at the University of Wisconsin-Madison? Maybe it applies in some ways, maybe it doesn't in others. That's what we're doing. So this is a little, Professor Small has this model of organizational brokerage that this figure, I hope, gives a little cue of that. So if you know somebody, I have this one friend, and he's one of these people who like knows everybody. He like anyone any person I bring up, I'm like, oh yeah, I know him. Or he has got more friends than anyone I know. He's super connected. He's a super connected person. So I do, like, by spending time with that friend, I get connected to a whole lot of people. He would be like an individual, like that's an individual brokerage. Just by spending time with my friend Paul, I spent time with him, and I'm like, wow, I met 7 new really cool people, and I learned a bunch of things by being around Paul. A lot of times when we talk about coaches who are connectors, we take that in our heads. We say, like, if I'm the coach, I got to connect each one of you to each other. I have to connect you to the people you need to know, to the information you need to know. It's like actor-driven brokerage. What we're trying to look at here is more like an organization-driven brokerage, meaning like it's kind of like the bottom 2, especially institution-driven. So like if a person comes into that blue rectangle, the blue rectangle is the team. By nature of being in that, there are things that get me connected. Some of it is the coach. Some of it is like the system, the way the coach has designed a set of routines. Some of it is like the physical layout of it. Some of it might be the technologies that are used. Some of it is other aspects of the context. It's an organization that connects, which is a bit deeper, more sustainable, and richer than just an individual that connects. Now, in that organization, there can be super connected people. Hopefully there are people, but there's a little difference there. One example that we've talked about a lot in the last couple of months, is there's this one really famous coach that we have studied a little bit, learned about a little bit. I'm not gonna say who it is. He's not a coach at Wisconsin, but he's renowned for being kind of like a really big jerk. Like, he's not nice to people. He's like, he doesn't care about people. He doesn't treat people especially well. And that's not good. Like, I'm not encouraging that at all. But this coach happens to be an excellent organizational leader. And the people who come into his organization get super connected. They're really good because he doesn't even purport to be a connector. He kind of has designed the system. It's a big team. It's a football team that he coaches. He's designed a whole bunch of people in that who know how to set up a system that gets people connected to the right information, to like good values, to principles, to a lot of things. He doesn't even really get to know his players very well. Again, I'm not advocating, but I think that's bad practice. What I'm saying, my point I'm trying to drive here is that, like, being a leader of an organization that connects doesn't inherently mean you have to be a super connector. You don't have to be the ultimate schmoozer or the ultimate extrovert to do that. You can be someone who's a design-based thinker who really knows how to set up a context to connect. So we're looking at some of those things. So there is what have we learned so far about, like, what do organizations do to make meaningful connections? Some of these things broadly say them a little bit. One is frequency of interaction. So when you come onto a sports team, you interact a lot with people, and that's at a very basic level. Like, so Ignacy, how many times a week does your team have practice?
5.
At least 5, right? And then you have meetings.
Yeah.
You travel together. You do everything together. You're with each other all the time. Now, again, at a baseline level, I think you go through any one of your teams, say that. At a baseline level, that's a high frequency of interaction. It's a good thing for developing trust and understanding. So when we're looking at teams, we're looking like, where are the high frequency interactions? What do they look like? And how do these coaches make those like meaningful connections? And how do they foster those in a really great, purposeful way? The duration of interaction. So Professor Small says that, like, there are a lot of places, you may have like a class in a semester. Say you're in this coaching class, and say we're all together every week. And we get, we really like it. We like each other. We have great conversations. We all learn a lot from each other. We grow. But then, like, it's December, whatever, 15th, semester ends, and then kind of go our own ways. No, we're not going to do that. We're a tight knit group, and we're all in the same program together. We're going to stay connected. But in a lot of your classes, you could have this really great class that the duration of it doesn't go on for a very long time. So this is another benefit that a lot of sport teams have. And another challenge that we're facing during this transfer era, during the team hopping era, during the school hopping era, is that durability benefit that sports have traditionally enjoyed is being challenged. And so that's an individual benefit, and it's also a collective benefit that's being challenged. Because, for example, like, I know Rich knows this research, and I know I used to study spent a lot of time looking at homelessness. And when you look at homeless students, there are a bunch of things that are really challenging for them, students going to school, and a whole bunch of things challenging. But one of the biggest challenges for learning is instability. Is that every time you change the school, you're starting everything over again. You're new faces, new learning, new curriculum, new everything. Bad for me as a young student to be hopping from school to school. In some schools, there are a lot of kids who are highly mobile. And then even if I'm the stable one, even if I'm staying in that classroom and I'm surrounded by a bunch of other people coming in and out, it hurts me as well. So even if you're a stable person in an unstable environment, your learning possibilities are diminished. So it's the same in a team environment. So we're looking at how do coaches sometimes increasingly unstable environments, which sports are now. Sports are less stable than maybe they were. Try to find ways of durable relations to maintain that. Professor Small also talks about this idea of outward orientation being really important in organizations and as a potential real benefit. Meaning, there are a lot of organizations that are thriving today that don't necessarily have it. And one I could say an example of, another one I've studied a little bit, are barbershops. Not because I use them, but because they're an important social place for a lot of people. So there's a barbershop here in town that I just love the barber who leads it. He's a wonderful guy. He's the social center of his community. There are people who go into that shop and have been going there for years. They go every week. Like, there are some, it's mostly men at this shop. There are some men who have been going to that shop for 20 years. It's been open for like 23 years, the shop. Every week, thousands of times. So like the durability, they've been going there, high frequency, they've been going there a lot. But in a lot of places like that, barbershops or other places, even if there's these other things, there's often not these last two things, which are outward orientation, meaning like I'm thinking about, like, big part of my purpose in this organization is to think about others. And the other one is to have a joint task or a joint aspiration or goal, something we're working on together. So as great as like a lot of barbershops are for that kind of thing, there often isn't like a shared task or a shared collaboration. Teams have these things. So when coaches can do these things, we are finding, we're studying, we're learning about when they can optimize frequency of interaction in positive ways, when they can look at durability, when they can maximize outward orientations. How can we get a group that thinks about things bigger than themselves? And when they share tasks and aspirations, those are like foundational aspects of social capital. Just want to share a couple examples. I know we're running almost out of time here. So a couple of examples, we've already got a bunch of examples. We're mining through a lot of other examples still to come. I want to thank all of our team who's online here. A lot of our team members who are doing the study online. Example of frequency of interaction, just we've got some coaches who have little routines like we'll choose every week, they design policies and practices where each member of a team has a one-on-one with an adult on the team every week. That does nothing to do with the sport. All right, it's not that I have to meet with every athlete every week, but it's that everyone is having a one-on-one for a couple minutes every week with some member of the coaching staff or the support staff, not about the game. One example. So it's like we've got a bunch of these things. We have another one of a coach that has a players only circle before every practice, meaning the coach recognizes that he is too present in every conversation the team has, and sometimes the greatest value is to step out and to have a frequency of interaction when his voice is not present. So he has, was it like 5 minutes, Maria, I believe, or Josie?
Yep.
5 minutes before every practice, where the girls all sit down in a circle and talk about life together. One of our researchers told that story, which is a simple thing, but it's an organizational kind of, it's something that animates a kind of a collective efficacy among the group in a different way. Got a bunch of examples, like I'm just gonna share a few of them. The duration thing. So like another one challenge a lot of coaches are facing is like, okay, I've got kids coming in and out of this program across generations. We have some coaches who have been at like a school for 20 years or worked with a club program for many years, but kids are kind of coming in and out. So one coach did something as simple as setting up like a cross-generational text list, meaning that like everybody who has played in the program over the last 10 years is on that list. And they will have like conversations or connections via that to connect people, even when they're gone, to people who were there. So there's different tenor to the conversation, very simple thing. Another example I've talked about a lot, this was not part of our study, this was leading up to it, was Coach Bruce Larson, who this is one of our favorite coaches we ever learned from, up at Somerset High School, up near the Twin Cities, just an amazing inspirational leader. He had these enduring symbols connected to the armed forces, the Army values that he instilled in his program. He gave every player this coin when they got done playing for his program. Like, and he gave me one. So the really cool thing, I wish I had it with me. And that this coin was like everyone who played 4 years for Coach Larson got one. And then for the rest of their lives, it is like the price of admission to get into any event at the school. So they can go back to the school, take their coin, and they can get a basketball game, a football game, a team gathering. But more than that, it's like a symbol that you're with us, you're with us for the long haul, for the duration. These are just little examples among many big ones that we're piecing together. Outward orientations. Now this one's been an interesting one to think about. And one of them relates to this idea of vulnerability, which when we speak with a lot of our coaches, and I've spoken with some of you about this in our class as well, is that like the public nature of the coaching role makes a lot of us think we have to be a certain way. Like and I was guilty of this when I first became a head coach. I thought I'd be this like tough guy yeller. And it's actually like the last thing I am. Like I have never yelled at a person in my life. I'm not a yeller, but I somehow thought because I had played for yellers for, my whole life, that I all of a sudden had to be a yeller when I was coaching. So like my first year, I just shudder to think about this, but I'm yelling at kids and I'm miserable doing it. But I thought that that's what coaches do. And so we've had these kind of really meaningful and interesting coach conversations with a lot of coaches. They're like, the more mature they are, the more they've done it, the more kind of comfortable in their skin they've been. And they've allowed to develop a program that recognizes people for that. They develop an organization that recognizes you for what you are. Josie walks in the door. I'm not trying to make Josie different from Josie. I want her to be the best Josie, right? And so that starts with, we've learned from some of these coaches about being their most authentic selves. Some of the kind of gray area with that is interesting because some of these coaches are like there's high ego, like there's big ego involved. So how do you have both ego and play, which isn't always a bad thing maybe with coaching, but also vulnerability and a degree of humility? Can you do both? We think part of the answer lies in that first coach, that one coach I talked about a minute ago, is like, some people's real identity is that they're kind of brash, egotistical, and that, not saying we should all aim to be that, but if that's what you are, perhaps at least have enough awareness that you design an organization that has others in it who are maybe a little different and open to that. We're working through that a little bit. I'm not gonna go through all the examples. John, to our last couple examples. Joint, I didn't have a team there. Joint tasks and goals. The most clear, I think the clearest finding we have, and I think the one I feel the most like excited about, confident about, but still we're working through, we're gonna have to keep working through, is this one that these joint tasks and goals are not kind of one-offs. And they're very few of these coaches, when we talk about connectedness and social capital, are making their ultimate goal just winning a championship. They're building them on values and principles. And so all of these coaches that we go into, this is an organizational leadership thing. It's like a strategic plan. Like, what do you care about as an organization? And if you can align the big things that you care about, everything else builds from that. And so these joint tasks and goals are all around the values and pillars, principles, whatever they call them, of their program. Had an interesting conversation with our great coach, again, not part of our study, but Coach Mosley had this great examples a few weeks ago. And if you go into their practice gym over in the whole center, the big banner on the wall, and it's got I see Katie out here. I don't know, Katie, if you're by your not to pick on you. Katie is a graduate assistant coach. I can't remember what the pillars are, the values, but they're right on the wall of the gym. And so Coach Mosley talked about all these joint tasks, all the things they aspire to do are tied to those. She will stop practice in the middle of practice and say, look at the wall. Like that says, I can't remember any of the pillars, but they are on the wall, and she ties everything to those.
I have them here.
All right.
Legacy, communication, selflessness, integrity, winning mindset.
So and there's a whole process that she used to develop those. So the joint tasks, everything they aspire toward is tied to those values and principles. So that is very clear. We're finding, like, to run a great organization that connects, you gotta have some that you're connecting everyone based on. Those values and principles are part of it. So some things we're like not quite as sure about, like one is this idea of player agency. We're still trying to work through that. So like connectedness on one hand is like it's a collective thing. We all want to be connected, but then how do these things like player voice, player agency, meaning like you can buy in, we want you all to buy in. We want you to have your choice. Come and join us. If you want to leave, you can leave. We want you to be able to join another team if you want to join another team. Like, how do you work through? It's like a two-way street, right? If you design a great organization, but ultimately there has to be a buy-in or a want or a choice to be there. So how do these coaches navigate that, especially now in what we're calling like a highly unstable sporting environment at all levels, whether it's at college level, high school, club sports? Like, how do you manage player agency and build it while still having connectedness? The other one we're kind of trying to figure out, I believe on some of our experts, is we had an interesting conversation the other day just that started it about like even things like social media and how that plays into some of this stuff. Think about, for example, name, image, and likeness. And you have a team of 100 football players, and or you can choose your sport, and you maybe have 5 people in the room making a whole lot of money off of stuff they're doing, name, image, and likeness stuff. Or we have people who are like presenting themselves. That's just one example. You have people presenting yourselves at all levels very differently on social media. Some heavy duty into kind of like, look at me, like self-promotion. We even talked about how that's kind of, for younger athletes, some people feel that's necessary, like in order to get a scholarship or to get known, you got to promote yourself. How does that go? How does that play into this equation? How do coaches talk about that, manage that? are there ways that they kind of think about connectedness, like beyond our physical presence with like how we present ourselves on social media and in other spaces? Something we're grappling with a little bit. So just closing up here, I know we're at the end of our time. We are studying coaching, we're studying coaching and connectedness, but really all that stuff I played into before is not just about how coaches can win games. By the way, if you do these things well, you will win more games. Because we do believe in the idea that, you know, social capital undergirds human capital. We do better when we're connected. That's a belief of this. But this is like beyond sport. This is a place where people are connecting more than ever is in American society. But sports are organizations that matter. So if we can learn to lead them better, we can have a big impact beyond our teams. So this group, this BIOS group we have, a lot of you have been here a lot, been a part of it, but what we're really trying to do again, bring together sport and research on this great campus. And this is one of our first studies we're starting. We got some more in the works. We're trying to get going. We just invite you all. We got a great, again, MSL students. We've got so many of you here with us tonight. It's awesome to have you. We want you all to come to as many of these as you can come to. Some of you are here, some of you are on Zoom. Thank you for coming. We're going to keep plugging along with this work. Before I wrap it up, any like parting comments, questions, things you disagree with? Either putting people on the spot. Professor Halverson, an expert in the room, what are your takeaways as you think about this, like in relation to education, research, interest-based stuff?
I mean, first of all, I think I'm really glad that you all are engaged in this work. It's about time that we take sports and athletics seriously as a learning space, both for motivation for academics, but then also just like development as a person. And I really appreciate you taking that sort of a social capital, social network approach to understanding what the work is, rather than sort of a statistical gloss or a correlational approach. So really like digging into the kind of relationships that are necessary to create people who are able to participate in the world. I appreciate that perspective.
How about a coach? We've got a number of coaches in the room and online. When you, I'll ask for one comment and then we'll just say, well, some of us can linger around a little bit. I know a lot of you online have to go. When you were thinking about your team, is there one or two concepts anyone have that you were really thinking about, you want to learn more about as an organizational leader? Again, please feel free to chime in on the chat, or how about if we get somebody in person though first, and we'll get it on the chat. And I want to ask, is Professor Jimenez with us? Maybe she can offer a word or two. I didn't allow her space yet.
I am here. I'm here.
Sarah, what do you think? What's standing out to you here?
Oh my gosh, there's so much standing out. I think what we can learn from, well, first of all, we have so many different people with different expertise in the room, that I think the greatest thing about this is we can come at this research from different perspectives. So as an athlete, what can we learn from you as an athlete? What can we learn from you as a coach? And then I think really focusing all of this on justice and how can we really make meaningful differences in the lives of young people, and to look at those numbers that you shared at the beginning. And let's get back to this participation and how important participation is. And like Dr. Halverson said, the learning space, sports as a learning space, I think that is a great opportunity for us to collaborate with educators and just really learn from people who are doing it.
You got a good partner there too, it looks like tonight. A learning
Yeah,
partner.
she likes to be on Zoom.
You know, and so I'll say the parting thought. We have such an amazing group here that like the learning that happens here is social as well. So just as like the learning and growth that happens on a team, like the learning that we have in our community is way more than we're gonna read in any book or on any study. So just being together, that's the first step. So I hope you all will take this as an invitation to keep coming back. We got people like Ignacy here, who's like he started this amazing program for youth in Barcelona to keep kids engaged in sport. Like he's playing full throttle, high level soccer, and he's creating programs different part of the world. So we've got people like him, we've got people coaching at all levels. So it's a great community we have. So thank you for being part of it. Hope you all have a good night. I'm gonna sign off. Maybe we can sign off online.
Yep.
And you don't get the cookies that we have. We have cookies here, hot chocolate. You have to have them in the house. So have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks
And
so much, Pete. Thanks, Maria.
this will be available too for everybody, as well. We'll get this posted online, and then share it with Sarah so she can share it out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you again, Maria, for